We have well over 5,000 acres that have burned. We have an estimated 1,000 structures destroyed. We have no percentage of containment.
There's no water coming out of the fire hydrant. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city.
The Democratic mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, there she is. She is out of the country.
Fire's not from climate change. He blames liberal idiots.
In this video today, Trump drops bad news on Gavin Newsom as California burns to the ground. I'm talking about in Los Angeles as the wildfires are still at zero containment. This particular story and more in this video, but let's start with the official update from Los Angeles Fire Department officials. Watch.
The Palisades Fire is located in both LA City and LA County. We are in unified command with the City of Los Angeles Fire Department in addition to CAL FIRE. We have well over 5,000 acres that have burned, and the fire is growing. We have no percentage of containment. We have an estimated 1,000 structures destroyed, and also no reported fatalities, and a high number of significant injuries to residents who did not evacuate, in addition to first responders who were on the fire line. We have over 1,000 personnel assigned, and the cause of the fire is unknown. However, it is under investigation.
All right, so that's just a quick update from the Los Angeles city officials about these fires. Of course, listen, bottom line up front, these fires are definitely damaging the areas. People's lives are impacted. It's pretty crazy. But I do want to say this before we get to what Trump had to say about Governor Gavin Newsom. Is that when you live in California and you grow up here, you're not surprised by these, okay? Sometimes the stories can get a little crazy about what's taking place. But what I would say about this entire story is the incompetence from the leadership, all the way from the governor down to the mayor of Los Angeles, which we're going to get into in this video, of course. That is what really is the story here. The fires is normal, but the incompetence has to be called out. And speaking of that, let's get to what Trump had to say about the California governor. Now, he put this up a couple of hours ago earlier this morning. Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of it all, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes, a true disaster. Now, the true disaster that he's speaking to is the incompetence. You see, I'm not really shocked by the fire. Californians are not really shocked by the fire. What we are really shocked by is how incompetent the mayor is and Governor Gavin Newsom. That's what I call him. Now, there are quite a few points we're highlighting in this video. The first one to just kick off, as I just read to you, is that Trump, once again, is right about everything because he warned Gavin Newsom that this could happen. Here's an example of social media post that is also going viral on social media showing just that. Now, this is back in 2019. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. Must also do burns and cut fire stoppers. Every year as the fire rages and California burns, it is the same thing. And then he comes to the federal government for money. No more. Get your act together, Governor. And this is why there are people who disagree with Trump on this, that you should not withhold government funding for fire aid. However, then how does Gavin Newsom ever be held accountable if there's no consequences to him not doing what he's supposed to be doing? Which is why we're seeing so many people have such a dramatic reaction to these fires at this point because of the level of incompetence, which we're going to get to here shortly. Let me just wrap this up. Also, opening up the ridiculous closed water lanes coming down from the north. Don't pour it out into the Pacific Ocean. Should be done immediately. California desperately needs water, and you can have it now. And then there's another clip recently, right before the election, when he went on to the Joe Rogan podcast and said this.
In order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north, gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it.
Okay, so let's just take a moment here. If you guys are getting value from this video today, do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you do want to support us further, go to the link in the description below, shop our merch store, or you can buy us a cup of coffee. Now, allow me to show you an example of how bad the incompetence really is. What you're about to hear is from Rick Caruso, who ran for Los Angeles mayor against woke Karen Bass, who for some reason is on vacation in Africa, but that's a whole nother thing we'll get to later in this video. He had some harsh words about the leadership. Check this out.
But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
So he makes some valid points, okay? Number one, listen, if your job is fire management, then you're all about prevention and maintenance and doing whatever you can to make sure that fires are not able to spread. You may not be able to stop a fire from happening, which that's why I told you guys earlier. This happens every single year because most of the time is due to human error. All right. So we're not going to stop fires from happening, but what we can do is stop them from spreading. And that is all about fire management. And when you don't have water in the fire hydrants, I think that speaks to whether or not the people in charge of fire management is really doing their job. Now, let me give you guys another example why we know there's some level of incompetence happening here. The New York Post just put this up about the Los Angeles fire budget. So the New York Post is reporting that LA Mayor Karen Bass cut fire department funding by $17.6 million months before wildfires turned city into hellscape. Guys, again, you just can't make this up. There are current trends and patterns that you always see when tragedy strikes. Usually there are red flags when you look back, right? And this is a red flag. Why would you be cutting funding for the fire department, knowing that the biggest natural disaster we have in California on a repeated basis is not earthquakes, it's actually fires? And so the lesson there is we should be cutting out important things. And that even applies to your health and nutrition, which brings us to today's sponsor, Bright Core Nutrition. Did you know that there's a war happening right now in your gut? It's a daily battle between good and bad bacteria. This matters because your gut determines your health. This is why Kimchi One from my friends at Bright Core Nutrition has the superfood capsule your body needs to win this war. Each capsule contains over 900 strains of beneficial bacteria that supports healthy digestion, fortifies your immune system, and helps detoxify your body. And yes, Kimchi One is 100% made in the USA. Kimchi has also been shown to reduce obesity, promote smaller waistlines by curbing appetites, and naturally boosting your metabolism. And so today you can get an exclusive offer. Buy 2 bottles of Kimchi One and get 1 bottle absolutely free. All you have to do is click the link below, or you can call Bright Core Nutrition at 888-404-6312. That number again is 888-404-6312. Give them a call now. So as I've been stating, they're putting the priority of DEI and all these other initiatives over the safety of the California. And Charlie Kirk had this to say: California has spent billions on the dumbest ideas ever, high-speed rail to nowhere, equity programs, homeless high rises, and every LGBTQ pet project imaginable. But when it's time for government to do basic things, they can't break down of the social contract. Now, in regards to what Charlie Kirk is saying, what's also getting a lot of attention is the equity programs issue here, because there's a clip going around, going viral, showing what the Los Angeles Fire Department was actually focused on. Let me show you that now.
Los Angeles Fire Department is launching its first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau. It is dedicated to ensuring a fair and equal workplace environment.
Eyewitness News reporter Christian Cordero is live in North Hollywood with more on what it entails and why it's necessary. Christian?
Ellen, Colleen, the discrepancies are stark, even just on paper. The LAFD this year hired its first ever female chief, and it says so far this year, 8% of its applicants have been women. That might sound like a small number, but it's actually twice the percentage of female firefighters currently in the department. Every day, the LAFD is called upon to respond to crises, and today it is taking a step to resolve one of its own. The department's first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau will launch in January, 1 year since its first ever female fire chief, Kristen Crowley, was appointed.
So by creating this new bureau, our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau, now we actually have the staff to do the work when it comes to doing a deep dive in regard to how we do business, how we take care of one another in the fire stations and in our work environment.
The plan is to do so by adding training and enforcing accountability. Calls for accountability have echoed for years. In 2021, women's advocacy groups, including one representing female firefighters, pushed for changes at the highest level, saying a system within the department exposes them to abuse, bullying, and a culture of intimidation and retaliation.
You know, it seems every time we have to rail against DEI initiatives and have this conversation, I'm left thinking this every single time. I guess we're operating from the mindset that we can just have it all and life can be perfect. It's not. And so it's a life based on priorities. And the Los Angeles Fire Department clearly has misplaced priorities. The highest priority every single time has to be the safety and security of the customers that you're serving, right? That's got to be number one. Why do they continue to put DEI ahead of everything else? Right? That's how they become incompetent. That's how they become ineffective. That's how the culture goes out the window, because you're misplacing the priorities. And of course, I got another example of how priorities are misplaced. Here is Governor Gavin Newsom celebrating the fact that he removed the largest dam in California history. Check this out.
Largest dam removal project in U.S. history, and one of the most significant, if not the most significant, water restoration project, bringing back salmon and steelhead into this basin. This project could not have happened without extraordinary partnerships with tribal nations and, of course, our partners in the North and Oregon.
Now, that clip doesn't mean that is the direct cause of fire mismanagement. That clip is to show you that they care more about the smallest fish in California and being sacred to certain territories in California than they do for the actual safety of people who live here. That's where I have a problem with all of this. I get the argument, but here's the deal. You're the governor. You're supposed to keep people safe, and you're just not doing it whatsoever, especially when these California fires are something that can be prevented. And what I mean by that is you may not be able to prevent the start of the fire, but I keep saying it all the time. You could probably prevent the spread of the fire. That takes funding, proper management, clearly, and priorities. And here's Elon Musk saying this: these fires are easily avoidable, but nonsense regulations in California prevent action being taken. So year after year, homes burn down and more people died. Now he's responding to another post by the gentleman by the name of Austin, who wrote, Trump said the federal government should not be paying emergency wildfire aid while California is refusing to do controlled burns and clean up forests in the name of environmentalism. Now, that is a interesting point. I think there's two sides to that. Number one, California, they do controlled burns. Now, are they doing it to the level? I don't know. I need to do my research on that. But I know for a fact it's just a mismanagement of not only funding, but leadership and priorities. That's, if I want to sum it all up, that's the issue here. And of course, that's why the mayor is getting a lot of flack, because she's nowhere to be found. She was on vacation in Africa.
Many are asking, in terms of political leadership, where's the mayor? The Democratic mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, there she is. She is out of the country. She is in Ghana, attending a presidential inauguration. Local news reporting she is on her way back to L.A. now. But again, she is not there. She is on her way back, but she was in Ghana. And the fallout here for the leader of the second largest city in this country is that she went to Ghana on this presidential inauguration, knowing about the winds that were coming this way in terms of LA County and what could happen in this area, still choosing to leave. They're still being gone. She did not come back yesterday, but now it's reported that after what we've seen so far and what it could be, now she is on her way back. Other reports talk about the fire hydrants and that how they were not, some of them not connected to enough water, and which some of the first responders replied, you can ask your mayor about that.
Now, here's what Jillian Michaels had to say, and this actually brings up an important point I want to make clear in this video. Let me just read this first. I lost a home in the 2018 Woodley fire, was in Cali for New Year's this year and podcast, just evacuated my mom from her California home. The mayor is apparently in Ghana. The fire department's budget was apparently cut by $17 million, and someone made the decision to not refill some of the reservoirs. Now some fire hydrants are dry. Leadership in California is beyond negligent. This is completely unacceptable. Now, in the comment section, it brings me to the issue that I want to make clear. There was a $7.5 billion water bond known as Proposition 1 that was passed by California back in 2014 that was supposed to fund various infrastructure projects. And of course, they have been reporting that only $177 million of that same bond has been awarded for spending. This is the current status, by the way, in regards to water storage, even though with $2.7 billion allocated specifically for this purpose, there has been significant delays. As of 2022, no new storage projects had begun, which is obviously highlighting the incompetence once again. And the bottom line here is that the major infrastructure projects, particularly new water storage facilities, have seen little to no completion as of the latest updates. And Jillian Michaels had this to say, yep, on it, posted, these bastards, I swear to God, people will at least know the failures of their elected officials so they can make a choice at the voting booth that's fully informed. Well, you know what? California will have to learn a hard lesson, because we find ourselves in these positions over and over and over again because we vote in people like Karen Bass. We vote in people like Governor Gavin Newsom. And sooner or later, how much do you want it to hurt before you make the hard decision to vote in people who are truly going to put your interest first? And when I say that, I'm talking about safety, not DEI initiatives. All right, so now we're at the point where what needs to happen moving forward? Well, clearly the fire department and CAL FIRE, there's a multitude of things. Obviously, number one, they have to try to save lives. Number two, they have to save structures and homes. Number three, the air tankers are going to try to drop water so they can start setting up a boundary to contain the fire. That's why when you guys hear about the story and you hear the word containment, what they're trying to do is stop the fire from spreading. Okay. And if they could stop it from spreading, then they can actually put the fire out. And so those are really the top priorities at this point. And of course, by the end of this, a lot of questions are going to need to be answered from the mayor, Karen Bass. You were on vacation. Fire hydrants were out of water. Reservoirs are empty. Gavin Newsom, what's your issue? And hopefully, in my heart of hearts, I believe there may be a possibility this time around Californians will rethink the people they decide to vote into office. So my question to you guys, especially if you live in California, do you believe this will be the nail in the coffin for Mayor Karen Bass? Because remember, the San Francisco mayor, London Breed, yeah, she got voted out pretty quickly there. And Gavin Newsom, he cannot run for governor again. Do you believe this is enough to get Californians to really, truly rethink who they vote for? I'll tell you what my answer is. I don't think so. They're going to have to prove otherwise, because time and time again, Californians have been left to dry, and they continue to vote the same people in because of DEI and inclusion and et cetera, et cetera. I think you guys know where I'm going. Let me know about all that in the comments section below. Now, what's interesting about this next video that you guys can check out is Senator John Fetterman out of Pennsylvania does not have the luxury of continuing to be incompetent because he knows he'll get voted out, unlike in California. And so he had some harsh words, a chilling message for the Democratic Party in regards to Trump and his nominees. So if you guys want to check out what he had to say, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.